Nothing is permanent. I learned that from Wabi Sabi. We buy things we need, hoping it can last forever. However, forever doesn't exist in this world of consumerism. We are stuck in this cycle of buy, break, toss, buy, break, toss, buy. Okay, you get what I mean. It's a toss and replace culture we are living in. No doubt, things will eventually break, and that's the best time for a minimalist to buy things, right? Maybe not. We often skip a step where we ask ourselves, can it be fixed? Yes, repair. That's what we are talking about today, and it's a good habit for us to stay frugal, consume minimally, and also reduce the environmental impact if we are able to consume less. So today, let me show you the things I repair as a minimalist. First, we all have this. Underwear is something we wear every day. And after a long period of abrasion and wash, they're bound to become thinner and have holes on them. Personally, it doesn't really matter to me if there's holes on my underwear. I mean, my girlfriend won't judge me because of that, and I'm not showing it to anyone else except for you guys. I'll repair them because I don't want the holes to become bigger and end up being unwearable. That's when I take out my thread and needle to sew them up. It's a self-taught skill. That's why my workmanship is pretty crappy. But as long as it mends the hole, that works perfectly fine for me. So I'm trying my best to make the full use out of them, covering up the holes when it's needed. But sometimes the conditions are just unrepairable. If that's the case, don't deprive yourself and replace it. Alright, it's getting kind of weird talking about underwear on my channel, so let us change to clothes. Unless the material of the tee is really bad, I rarely encounter tees that need repair. Most of the time, they are ruined by stain and bacon neck. And the only way you can do is prevent that from happening by treating it with care when you're washing and wearing them. So there's no way you can repair them unless you bleach or dye it. But when it comes to pants, there's always way more damage to be found as compared to a top. I guess that's from the abrasion when we are walking. So same thing, I'll sew them out myself. The difference between repairing this and underwear is we are wearing this outside. So that's one of the biggest reasons why I love dark clothing. Because the damage and repair are not visible if we use the same colored thread. That hides my poor repair skills, but I call it wabi-sabi. Speaking of wabi-sabi, there's a type of Japanese textile that is patched and mended together, and they call it boro. This method of mending, repairing, and dyeing is commonly used by peasants and farmers in the olden days, Edo period to be exact. Because of their financial situation, they reuse and reweave old clothing and fabrics because that's the only way for them to have something to wear. And they use indigo dye because it's cost efficient, as expensive silk and material are reserved for the rich. However, during the Meiji period, that's when industrialization was introduced in Japan, and the boro aesthetic was frowned upon because it represents poverty, and people were embarrassed to wear clothes that show signs of repair. Moving forward to 21st century, there are Japanese brands like Visvim and Capital that are inspired by the boro textile, and they utilize it on their garments. And you can see this type of pieces worn by John Mayer. So it's interesting to see a traditional way of restoring clothes becoming something people frown upon and change into a small niche where some people can appreciate the imperfection of repairing. And no surprise, I'm a fan of that as well. But once you know how to repair things by sewing, you can basically repair anything of similar material. That can be bags, pillowcase, or a fallen button. I have to say, sewing is one of the skills I really appreciate as a minimalist because that helps me to fix a lot of things when it's torn. When it comes to shoes, they are the thing that receive the most damage because they are the one that protects our feet from whatever is on the ground. So, it's an inevitable process we have to face when our shoes are worn out. However, whether they are heel drag, tear, or yellowing, there's always ways we can repair them instead of getting a new one. I have a boots from Greedy, one of my favorite footwear I own ever since my fashion days. And what's good about these boots is, as long as I'm not abusing them, there's always a way I can resew the heel drag. In fact, I bought them second-hand, and the heel was pretty much worn out by the first owner. But just by sending it to a good cobbler, it can look as good as new. If you follow me on my Instagram, you might know that the zipper of this pair is starting to split apart. and I get to know from a friend that I can actually request for a new zipper from them, or I can send them back for repair. I haven't contacted them yet, but I'll give it a try. I always love brands that take pride and ownership of their products after they are being sold. That's really respectable, and it really cultivates this repairing culture. Do you remember I said I need to buy a new sofa in my previous video? Well, I guess while struggling with this analysis paralysis, because I can't decide which sofa is good for my family. Guess what? My dad has already fixed it for the time being. It might not be a long-term solution, but it definitely works for now. Speaking of that, my dad is the handyman of this house. Whether it's the lights, the cable, the gas, it's all done by him and is needed to be fixed. When it comes to furniture, most of the time, they are built with sturdy and long-lasting materials. As long as you are gentle with them, they can last for years. And if it's just a few loose screws, I'm sure you can handle it. If not, call your dad. Hello, Papa. On a serious note, if you don't know how to fix or repair a furniture like me, I'll recommend you to look for a furniture that has a long-term warranty before you even buy it. That will help a lot when it comes to repairing in the future. And that reminds me of this Japanese concept, kintsugi, a Japanese art of repairing broken potteries using golden lacquer. I've never tried to mend things with this method before, but I always appreciate this concept instead of worrying about the cracks and flaws. We can acknowledge the imperfection and find an opportunity to rebuild the broken furniture and appreciate the wear and tear. We often look for electronics upgrade when we think that whatever we own is outdated. I can assure you that I know how it feels. Recently, I was amazed by my friend's fully integrated smart home or room, and I was tempted to have this kind of integration as well. It will also happen when I see a new release of a product. At that point, we can't wait for our electronics to break so we can have an excuse for us to purchase the latest one with that additional groundbreaking function. Or worse, get it even when ours are working perfectly fine, and that makes repairing not an option. To be honest, most of us wouldn't know how to repair electronics when they become faulty. Often, it's not worth the time and money to search for local professionals to fix them. Because first, we can't be sure that it can be fixed. Second, replacing them might be a more cost-effective solution if the item is rather cheap. So when it comes to electronics, it's a difficult decision. Unless you really enjoy using this item or you love vintage products. If not, I wouldn't find ways to repair them if it costs more than replacing. So the least I can do in the future is buy electronics that have easy to replace parts. That's the reason why I chose to have a desktop instead of a laptop, because it's way easier for me to repair and replace parts instead of changing a new computer when it's faulty. Hobbies. Yes, I can't even narrow it down any further. And I have to be vague for this because it works for any hobbies. Whether it is fishing, camping, gardening, or even listening to music, there are activities that require tools and equipment to execute. There will also come a time when the tools stop working. They can be pricey if we want to replace them. Oftentimes, we find that as a reason for us to upgrade to a better version of what we have. So instead of making rash decisions, why not ask yourself, is it something you can repair instead of replacing them? I wouldn't claim that I'm living an eco-friendly lifestyle. During some situation, I will still use disposable items when it's inevitable. But I do put in effort to reduce redundant waste by using reusable tools. And repairing your existing possession by itself is a good way to fix the planet as well, by not consuming so much when it's not needed. And that can cut down on the environmental impact we create. So we all know the benefits of repairing. It helps us to save money, live minimally, and even reduce the environmental impact. But why are we not doing it? I think it boils down to how we shop. In order for us to repair something, we first need to enjoy using this product. If not, we probably can't wait for the thing to spoil. I mean, I did that before on my shoes when I was a kid. I drag it, I abuse it, just so I can tell my mom I need a new pair. As we all know, when we become older, when things started to break apart, that's the worst thing that can happen because it's time for us to spend money. That's why it's good to buy things that can last longer. At least we know that if something is wrong, there's still a high chance for us to fix it, since the quality will be much better than cheaper items. That being said, with the thing being long-lasting, it has to be something we enjoy using, even after a long time. That's when aesthetic and comfortability come into play. I know our taste and style might change over time, so it's important for us to do our research before buying, know what we like, and maybe find timeless pieces. Or at the very least, don't make any impulsive purchase, because most of the time we buy them because they are cheap or they are in trend, and none of them last, and that wouldn't make you want to repair them in the future. Even better, you might consider buying second-hand pieces and repairing them and making it your own. But I have to say, that requires tons of research and knowing what you are doing with the repair. Lastly, I want to say I'm not against replacing, because it's an inevitable process where things will eventually break down, especially technology and gadgets. And I'm not trying to say repairing is the only option. Instead, consider repairing as an option. Weigh the pros and cons before you make the decision. So I hope this video can give you some ideas and inspiration of repairing instead of replacing. And if you have any more ideas on repairing items, let me know down at the comment section. So that's all I have. Thanks for liking and subscribing to this channel, and really appreciate you for watching this. And I'll see you guys again next week. Bye bye.